Hello, everyone. Today I am joined by the great Adam Narnst, all the way from sunny Mackay, currently dwelling in culture-rich Melbourne. How are you, Adam?
I'm all right. I'm all right. That's an interesting introduction.
Just came to me. Just said living here. It's automatic writing. But the reason we've called you out of cyberspace and out of your ordinary life is because it recently became known to me that you have actually had mixed martial arts experience, and you showed me the video, and I was blown away by it. So, but you're also a PhD candidate. In creative writing. You're a teacher. So how the hell did you find yourself in a cage? Please let the public know.
I don't know. There was probably a few teachers in my younger days that wished that I was in one already. But no, I wasn't that bad. But no, yeah, well, I guess uh I had traveled around. Well, most of my life I've moved around. I've lived in kind of until I was, probably the most I've lived in one place in the one house is probably 3 years. So um, maybe four. But my parents moved around a bit. From Papua New Guinea to Central Queensland to Brisbane. My father was a Lutheran minister. Um, and yeah, he did sort of mission work as well. And then, we moved around a lot, and that kind of meant that you were always kind of the one that was. I don't know. It's pretty hard in Queensland going to mostly state schools and being the oldest brother and not knowing anyone. You kind of become a target pretty regularly. Um, for a lot of bullying and stuff until eventually you fight back. And then I was always a smart kid. I was always a big reader. Um, and Even though I played footy, even though I played rugby and whatever else, I was still kind of a target, I guess. And then later on, being a bit of a metalhead and having like long black hair and wearing black and stuff, and still going to like kind of sports guys parties, stuff had happened, and then I went fruit picking after that, after high school, and got in a few fights there. Even though I still claim that I'm the one that's trying to usually the one trying to calm everything down. But yeah, just by being a target and not knowing how to fight back, really, not having any backup for a start in most of the places where I lived until I lived there like 3 years or so, and then you know I'd been tested or I'd been adopted by somebody. So yeah, and I guess so. Not very bad violence, but there was always someone ready to punch you if you don't want to back down verbally, and you want to travel around without the support of like strong friends, then in Australia you're going to get tested. And then one day, kind of me and three of my friends, my cousin, we're all kind of reasonably strong dudes. Like we're all about 21 to 24, and the but but none of us real aggressive types. More like kind of rogue church boys than, and not like the wealthy rogue church boys, but this kind of middle class rogue church boys. And yeah, that so we were in a pool hall, and we walked out the door anyway. There was a guy sitting, one of these kids, so just like 15, 16 year olds. One of them was sitting on my cousin's car, and he decided to um that he was sitting on the boot, and then another kid was sitting there, and then like one of my friends decided to go argue. Anyway, it turned into a brawl where two of my friends were knocked out on the ground, and me and my cousin was just kind of getting knocked down and then jumping up, and there was 20 kids came basically from ages of like 15 to 20. Well, kids and young men, let's say, came through from the alleyway or something. I don't know what they were doing there. Maybe they didn't have, I don't know.
Can
Maybe
I,
they'd lost all their games that night or something. But
can I ask
yeah,
you,
it
what
became.
was your size at the time? Because you've ended up fighting at heavyweight. You've ended
Oh
up 6'2", but like were you
yeah,
undersized as a kid? Like when was your growth spurt? When were you big and were you ever big and heavy for your age, or when did that occur?
I was tall for my age, but I was a swimmer and a rugby player in high school. I was a bit of a string bean towards the end of high school, but yeah, I was probably close. I don't know when I hit my peak age, but wasn't I was tall in high school. But
Uh,
yeah, so I was tall but I was fairly lean. Like I've been fruit picking, and I took a long time before I put on any bulk.
yeah.
Um, like I always had a little bit of a gut, but no matter how fit I got, I never got that six pack. Not one of the pretty boys, I'm afraid.
I
But
reckon I
yeah,
saw one old photo where you had a bit of a six pack happening. Probably
it
just
was
got
under
it
there. It
then.
was under there, but there's I don't know, some kind of genetic fluke where I missed out on that package.
So
But anyway,
how many years training had you done before you like decided to actually fight competitively? Like did you go
well
through
that
belts
night.
like green belt, blue belt, or was it like a different kind of training, MMA training?
Well, that night, like basically, just fighting for like 15 minutes with all those guys and just going like, basically, I was hitting someone hitting me back. Then I was getting hit from someone else. Then I turn around and hit them. Then I get knocked over. And I just thought, and the last thing I saw was just this big islander guy just looking at me as I walked in towards him like this, and then going bang, and him having this big smile on his face, and then I just walk in again, and then go bang. Anyway, I decided that would be the last time I would ever fight without knowing how to fight,
Mhm.
and so I just found a place, and um, I found a really good club. It was one of the first ones in Queensland to do. Um, they were a Wing Chun club. I went there to do Muay Thai. Alfredo Del Brocco, who was from Rick Spain in Sydney, who's quite famous in the martial arts community, um, who came down from William Chung. William Chung trained with Bruce Lee. Um, like they were friends. He was like the older training brother. Kind of claims that he took Bruce along from boxing to the Wing Chun for the first time. But anyway, so they got this lineage of Wing Chun, but the thing was they're street fighters. They collected money. They collected on debts in King's Cross,
Oof.
So like it's a um. But I went in there initially to do the kickboxing and thought I was going to get fit, and I was fairly fit, and I was getting fitter. Um, like I was used to make kind of regionals for water polo. I'd play in the state titles, but I'd be like the slowest guy on not the strongest team, but I'd still be there. But yeah, but so I started getting fitter, and then the Sifu Rachel Del Brocco said to me like, why don't you check it out upstairs? Like, why don't you ever have a look? You're already paying for it to do the kickboxing. Like, why don't you have a look at the Wing Chun? And I'm like, martial arts, I did a little bit of Taekwondo in school, and I don't think it's anything that I need to know. And she's like, just go upstairs and have a look. And when I went upstairs, there was like 30 guys, and some of them were really good. Like the school was just a bit of a fluke. Yeah. It still, they would have been paying a bunch of rent. They were right in the city, but they were between my suburban house, and the other side was the theology college on the other side of there. So going through the theology college straight from there to hit the bags, and then I could go home. But because they were in the city, they had a heap of these kind of professionals and stuff who are like one of the things with the martial arts club is that once the trainers get to a certain level, they're going to start their own schools, and then they'll move far away and won't get to train with them anymore. So then there's other people, but if you're in the city, we had lawyers and stuff like that. People would normally stop training or open their own schools, like we're still there because, and so there were 30 people in the room and they're just going, and he turns around and they've just kind of fired off 10 shots, and it's 10 shots. There's no like weird stances. There's no big exaggerated movements. It's all short and sharp. And he turns around like Alfredo, this is a little Italian guy with like a bald head, but just, the 1,000-mile stare, He turns around to them and he says, like, so what do we do? He's like, well, what do we do when someone comes up to fight us? Because I'd heard all this, this phantasmal bullshit about like the we can't train martial arts because we're so dangerous. So we can't have any fights because if we're so dangerous that we'll just kill the other person, like we can't do what we do because it's so deadly, like this ridiculous stuff, or, even, really weird stuff comes out about it. And he just turned around to them and he's like, what do we do when someone comes up to take us on? And everybody in that room at once just said, we hit first, we hit fast, we hit till it's finished.
Well, you certainly did a bit in the video that you showed me recently. We're actually out at a local bar watching the UFC, and you've whipped out the big phone. Go to it now if you want. Hit the share screen. You've whipped out the big phone in the middle of the bar during the co-main event, which I ended up seeing absolutely none of because I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. It's like this bloke sitting next to me, like my mate, my colleague, who met a few times. We've been chatting about all sorts of stuff. Is that's the guy on the right? Like, don't be confused by the photo of his opponent who looks like a 6-year-old boy, because you'll see in the sec that the guy's as big as a polar bear. And
he is the
press play, just let it run, and I was just absolutely
Young has an amazing he's like he has a baby face, but then when you go and see that baby face, it's actually like twice the size of a normal face.
He's like standing back here. That's why his face looks small. That's why he looks small. But then like at normal height, he's like there.
He's in a Mongolia and he's been wrestling since he's 4 years old, and he's 130. I was 112. He was 122. He's probably closer to 125, 130 when walking around,
My name's Narnst. I've been fighting for about 4 years, and I'm from Brisbane, Australia. My opponent is Yang Yuchen. He's a big, tall left-hander. 我最大亮点是我的拳法，因为我的拳很重。每次在比赛中都以 KO 的结局。
So now he looks a little more serious.
I'm looking forward to getting a bit too close to him, making him uncomfortable, and bringing all the nasty stuff that they don't have in Senda. Alan, why don't you come up, Beijing? Yeah, I've seen your fights. It's very nice. I hope you enjoy the Senda. You're going to have a very bad day on Saturday. I guarantee it, man.
The fuck? And I was like, and you even trash talking the guy. Like, this is amazing. And then like, let it keep going, because then like when you walked into the ring.
Well, he was a real I'm basically, I got the feeling, well, we figured out like that I was going to be the dog meat for this guy. So it's kind of fun, kind of hilarious. They got the wrong walk-in music for every single fighter. So I lucked out. I got Wu-Tang, but poor Yang came out to this.
And also
Chumbawamba. He got Chumbawamba.
and don't
But
think because
you can see the athleticism on the dude. He's
yeah,
like
he can
6 foot.
jump. Yeah.
He's about 6'3", 6'4". I'm 6'2", and I'm about 100. Here I was 111, 112 kilo. Like I'm carrying some fat, but like it's open weight. So
Yeah,
normally I used to drop down to 95 kilo, but basically the way that I got through it was I just like I would walk around at maybe 105 and drop down to 95 to 90 kilo.
at least like give me a bit of stink eye, like let him know his boss.
Yeah. I mean, he's a fairly big star there. This was like the first time that UFC actually this is pre-UFC rules, because this is actually Pride
It
rules.
is
It's
pride
like
rules, as I found out,
yeah.
because at one point you happened to be on the ground.
I mean, that was what
I could
really
kick your
sold
head,
it
like,
for me.
like for a goal, and you've like caught it and
I'd
gone.
wait. I had like I won seven. I won 6 out of 7 amateur fights. I fought amateur full contact with gloves optional, but no head hits, and I won most of those. And then I fought 2 pros back home. One I won pretty convincingly. The second one we had disruption to training and whatever else. But I lost to, yeah, it was ridiculous. I had a huge lung infection for like a month before the fight, and I still fought because I'm an idiot. But this one I was ready for, but I'd never usually fight at 105. I'd never usually fight at the weight. But
talk us through what you remember in like what you can remember you're thinking or feeling in like each of these moments as it runs. Like right
I was keen. Like I mean, walking out there is pretty intense. It's like there were 5,000 people live, and I probably went to. It wasn't something people would normally be tuning into, but it was on one of the 20 or 30 Chinese stations, probably one of the 10 or 20 main stations on a Sunday. So show that to a 1.4 billion houses. There's probably a few who tuned in. But so that was like super cool, like just knowing the scale was there. They have very good sunda, which is like kickboxing with throws. So it's full contact kickboxing, but they don't use elbows. They don't clinch because they're really good at throwing. That's taken from Mongolian wrestling, Shui Chao, which is like fast wrestling, somewhere between judo and wrestling, and Mongolian stuff. But yeah, so they're really good at takedown, sweeps and stuff like that. And as I was about to find out, avoiding them. Not that I'm the best at takedowns, but
press play, man. Press play. Let's watch it. Let's
yeah.
let the people see what unfolded. Giving him like, look at that. That's some pretty good stink eye. And you're telling me like you're telling me like saying how come there's no fear in you? And you were saying because you've actually been a bouncer as well, so you're completely used to like having to confront violence while knowing how to fight. So that gave you a kind of zero fear factor by the time like this moment came along, because you're like scraping your feet like you're like a bull about to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's practical. You get sweat on the behind the balls of your feet there, because you're just full of energy and nervousness. Here, I caught the kick, and that bit there is pretty ridiculous. There's not many heavyweights who do like
You can jump like
jump.
that. Yeah.
Like I've been told since then, I need to move his leg out between my legs.
Oh yeah.
And then scoop under and circle to the left.
Yeah, you circle towards his bum, yeah.
But he's hooking up underneath as well with his foot, so he's not allowing that to come out. But the fact that he can be 130 kilos and jump that sweep there, like his foot just jumped up.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. But there was a big roar here because he kicked, and all the crowd.
but you
blocked every time they hit.
Now it's the battle of the knees. like
He-
two kangaroos going at it?
Yeah, well, I've got a pretty strong clinch, and I like elbows, and I've got pretty strong knees. There's not many people that can wear a lot of them and still be standing there, and this is my big advantage. If we're on the ground, I'm better at jiu-jitsu. My Wing Chun club turned out to be a jiu-jitsu and MMA club as well. So they're the ones that taught me most of everything. We were linked up with jiu-jitsu clubs with John Will down in Melbourne as well. But so basically, I want to be here or I want to be on the ground, but I'm comfortable standing up. But he's been training most of his life in specialized places for kickboxing. But if he doesn't like it when I'm in there nailing him with knees and he can't get his head out, it's wouldn't feel good for him. And I just miss here. I get him with a really good elbow.
Yeah, nice
Like,
and tight.
but I probably should have. You're not supposed to use the blade. I could have used the blade more. I was probably a bit too weak on him, but my knee's starting to hurt him there, and he's starting to protect his body, and like pull his hands away. But here, bang.
There we go.
That's when I dropped him,
Got
and
it
then that
there.
one. And
Yeah, he's back up.
so yeah, he's super tough. Like that shot, I got it straight through as they say in the Muay Thai, like belly button through the backbone.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
like I'd hit him a fair few of them, and this one rocks him and drops him.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then as he's getting up, now right there, if I had have, it would have, if I had have gone to the ground and gone on top and started hitting, I might have been able to get him, but he would have slipped out the side of the ropes.
That's right.
So,
It's pre-cage times. Yeah.
so that one, I land this knee like straight into his face, and like I
Oh, yeah.
felt his nose goes flat, and like I felt the blood split out. Like but he doesn't have any cartilage left there anymore. He's been fighting. He's been fighting his whole life. So like it's just like hitting skull, except there's a nose hole. But yeah, but here I'm having problems with my mouth guard, which I stupidly didn't get fixed up before this fight. But here, so I want a little break there, but now they stop. I'm ready to go. And they stop and they clean his nose.
So they gave
like,
hometown hero a bit of time to recover, basically, which is leads on to the claim that
I
emerged.
mean, I'm telling the truth.
The fix was in.
Sucking in you can see me sucking in the big ones too, but he was hurting, And to do this in an MMA match, it's only if with a
Cut
cut
above the
with
eye, isn't it? You can't
it's
see.
it's only if it's preventing you from defending yourself intelligently.
Yeah.
Which it sounds like an oxymoron, but yeah. It's
like
only
blood in
if
your
it's
eye and you
going
can't
in
open your eyes. So
eyes,
you're
yeah.
like,
Which is how they get me eventually, which is the shot here. Here's a really good shot. That was a beautiful, very short
left
little
cross,
left.
was it? Like a little
Yeah, it's kind of it was a hook, but
in tight.
yeah, kind of a looping one. Maybe that's why it got me. He just held it just low, a little bit low.
So that's almost like a sort of uppercut, sort of.
Well, it's a bit like that. It was like a short version of like the Chuck Liddell overhand.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like there's some Muay Thai guys are really good at it. But here
In there.
after that, I was like just trying to get back in, get my bearings. I'm all right now. He sweeps, but then I just go under his leg.
That was nice.
There's full head kicks allowed in the ground here, which like were banned in the UFC after in 97 or something, like 3 years in. Like head kicks on the ground are pretty dangerous. Like stomping to the head on the ground is super dangerous, but it's closer to real life. I mean, I've still got a referee there, so like I'm not afraid. Like I've literally had 100 fights in the street as a bouncer. Like I was so whatever happens in here, there's a referee, there's allegedly doctors, they're Chinese, you never know with these guys. They're the shiftiest of the shiftiest guys are running these competitions. But the
We're
doctor
gonna,
who that
yeah,
I
you see fixture the cut, but we're
I've
going to
got
have
one
time.
cut over there.
We're
So
going to.
here
So
I
sorry,
try to
Adam.
take him down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, Adam. We're going to run out of time very soon.
We'll
But
watch it through.
so just let it run through to the end so people can see how it end. See the is that it? That's okay. So that's where he actually
That's it. That's
you
the
couldn't get him
actual
down because you held the rope, which was basically cheating. And
Yeah.
then you told me the story how the fix was in from the start, where they came into your change room before the fight and said, "This is a hometown hero. It's a big TV audience. We really need him to win for the sake of the sport." And then your coach and the promoter started yelling at each other furiously in like Mandarin Chinese or Cantonese, whichever language they're speaking. And and you're saying, what are you saying? What are you saying? Like, you're negotiating on my behalf. What's going on? So you had a sense that the fix could be in, that you weren't going to agree
Well,
to.
no,
The
they
referee
came and
maybe
asked me that they asked me to spar in the first round, which is like as if we're gonna like fake fight for one round and then come on hard in the second, which was just like I could see that was like they were setting me up to get like I'm like either this is the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. I don't know because if I go in there half throwing and he throws the real one, like I'm gonna be gone. They said, and they claimed it was because they didn't want me to get hurt.
Okay.
Which they had a habit of, like in other places, two Western fighters won, and they were surrounded by 20 guys out when they walked out the door and beaten unconscious, and their passports torn up in front of them. So, but they tried to threaten my trainer in Chinese, and like they asked me to spar it out, and I'm like, let's just fight, and then they said to him in Chinese, I found out later, your guy, we just don't want him to get hurt. And he said to them, well, maybe my guy will win. But Bill, our promoter who had booked us the hotel, said, well, maybe if he wins, maybe he doesn't leave Beijing.
Okay. Yeah.
And my old trainer used to fight underground fights with gangsters and was ex-army as well, said, you got friends, I got friends. You fucking see if we leave Beijing.
Struth, Adam, this is a very crazy world you found yourself in the remaining 5 minutes we've got. Could you see if you could maybe just see what comes to mind and free associate a little bit on whether the issue of violence or aggression found its way into your PhD, which you're pausing for the moment while you do some teaching work. But is there a way where it's managed to like work its way into your process of reflection in your writing? Because a lot of people listening to this might actually probably not so much MMA fans like us, but actually people who are into research, books, humanities, and social sciences. So, is there a way where it's managed to make its way into your work, into your thoughts about your PhD?
So originally I looked at kind of so I did I did creative nonfiction as an honors, research honors, and then and that was about kind of fruit picking days and stuff like that. But I believe in this kind of living life in a kind of being truer to some kind of creating the story, being in the story is one way of guaranteeing that you're going to get new stories, that you're going to experience new things. So but I veered away from the sociology thing because self-explanatory, but and I just kind of working as a bouncer and fighting. I just started looking at what is violence, you know, as a kind of ground zero, and looked at it as rough force rather than something that's inherently has some kind of moral value or moral lack of moral value. So once I started looking at that,